Mary Meet, Annie here. This video is a continuation in the flow of the Rite series, and it is going to address writing ritual. And I know some of you just shivered at the very thought of that. The reason why I am putting it in at this point in the series is I know that many of you are going to be looking at the rest of the series as you decide about writing your first rituals, putting together what from what I say resonates with you and getting rid of what doesn't, and coming up with what your flow of the Rite might be. So I wanted to address writing ritual and the importance of it and some suggestions how to write it. Some of you will write very detailed rituals, capturing a lot of words, being very careful about how you're phrasing things, making it pretty, and some of you will just write a few things as an outline on some cards. It's equally as important. No matter what your personal style is, don't try and force yourself to be something you are not. 4 words to consider when you're going to write a ritual. Because I think all of the rituals that we write will be centered on the energy of one of these 4 words. If you pose a question to yourself as you begin to write, and when you're done, you've answered the question, you probably have a darn good ritual that you've written. First word. First question you might ask yourself. What do I want to manifest? What do I want to happen during and after this ritual that I leave with myself or something changed? If the ritual that you write answers, here's what I want to manifest and how, you've got yourself a ritual. Another question to inspire a ritual would be, what do I want to reinforce? It's not always about making something new happen. It's about sometimes really bringing more energy or focus or life to something that you've been working on. Healing sometimes falls under that category. If the question is, what do I want to reinforce? If your ritual answered, when I came out of that ritual, this is what I was stronger or better or got back to doing that I used to do that I stopped doing, any of those things might be an answer coming out of ritual that made it a ritual about reinforcing. A third question that might give you an idea for a ritual is, what do I want to celebrate? We don't always go into ritual wanting to make something happen or reinforce something. Sometimes we want to celebrate something. We just want to be able to declare in sacred space that we love our gods, that we are happy. If we're with others, we want to celebrate that we're happy being with them. Sometimes we just want to celebrate. We can even celebrate quiet, peace, time set aside. If we answer the question of that ritual, I had a great celebration and I'm leaving content with what happened in that circle, that's a reason to write a ritual. And a fourth question which might help you decide why you want to write a ritual is, what do I want to reflect on? This covers that whole area of opening up, being in conversation with the gods, being in a peaceful place, the waiting to see aspect of a ritual. You usually know when that ritual has been a good one because you leave at peace. It's a quiet exit. When do you write a ritual? I strongly believe you don't sit down to write a ritual and then go to do your ritual. I really believe that you need to write something and let it be. Come back to it. I like to make sure that my rituals are written a week in advance. That means if something's already written that I'm going to reuse, I review it a week in advance to see, is it still what I need now, or do I need to change something about it? And then I let it be. There's something about the energy of writing something and having it that still connected to the creation of it, and then take it right into your circle. You're better off doing your homework in a sense and then letting it be. I like to do that, and then the day before a ritual, when I'm thinking about what I need to get ready for it, give it a last read and see, do I need any tweaking? Does it still do what I need it to do? and let it be at that. I don't believe in working and reworking rituals up to the last minute, because you probably had an insight into what you needed, and then you start thinking too much. It's going to be perfect when you get into circle, no matter what. But I really warn you against, oh my gosh, tomorrow's Lammas, I've got to get my ritual today, I've got to get written, I've got to get everything done. Probably won't be your best ritual. It doesn't mean we can't be spontaneous. I'm not saying by writing it ahead of time and not revisiting it that you've somehow put it in some kind of tablet of stone. There's still going to be things that are going to happen even as you're doing it that you're going to change. But write it and let it be. And don't be writing it in a rush at the last minute. I get the question a lot about writing our own, going to the effort of writing our entire ritual for ourselves or using somebody else's. I'm for any combination. If every word, if every poem, if every charge is something you wrote yourself, that's fantastic. However, I find it equally fantastic that as a spiritual person, we read something that somebody else has written, or we watch something that somebody else has done in a video, and it just resonates with us. We're using this then to go, ooh, I connect to that. That's powerful. It's as powerful to me as if you wrote it yourself. You may be inclined to write your own rituals. I have to admit, I am often inspired by the rituals of others. I love collecting invocations to the elements, especially ones that talk about elemental aspects and seasons and the energies of the elements. Yeah, I won't invoke the guardians with anything other than my set way of doing it, but I love the poetry of the seasons. I love different poems I've seen that are different charges for the gods and goddesses and different ways to invoke them and welcome them. I write a lot of my own, but I steal a good part of them. And I am equally as inspired by the words of others. If every word in your ritual is cobbled together from things you've read or seen that you like of others, I can guarantee you it can be as powerful as if you wrote it yourself. It's according to what your inclination and your talent is. I read something, I think it was on a website, and it was advice to those who were studying, early in their studies, where they were gathering information on what a ritual might be and what the holidays might be or what the lunar celebrations might be. And this was a supposedly wise person whose advice was that no one should write ritual until they were an experienced practitioner. Bullshit. Total and complete bullshit. I wanted to call that person out, but I realized I would not be in a conversation with someone that I could respect, so it wasn't worth doing. Write your rituals right from the beginning, because you are reaching into something inside you, your passion, and your gods will also speak to you in the process of doing that. You're never too early in the process to write your own ritual. Yes, you might have very basic and simple rituals until more words come to you or more meaningful actions come to you, till you know what the rituals mean to you better. But start right from the beginning. And I warn you against anyone who tells you you can do any of this too soon. It's not possible. The sooner, the better. Our rituals, meaning our individual rituals, mine as a solitary practitioner and yours, they're the interweaving of our own energy and experience, our desires, our needs. No one else can write them for us. And we can write that as powerfully when we still don't really know what we're doing as we can when we think we got it all down pat, because we never really do get it all down pat. I'm all for ritual templates. I'm all for you deciding what a ritual is to you. If you go back to what ritual means and the power of the repeating motions and words, the repeated use of certain symbols, where it takes our brain outside of the mundane, it's very important that you establish what your repeating pattern is. And the way to do that when you're new at writing ritual is every piece that you have decided needs to be part of your ritual. And you may take some from the things I'm going to discuss going forward. You may put them in a different order even. I'm going to tell you how I do everything I do and why I do it. You may find one from column A, one from column B. What the heck does any mean here? Oh, that means nothing to me. You may come up with something else that has to be for you. It's really a simple process. Get yourself a stack of 3x5 cards. Put down each part of what a ritual might be. Maybe this series will help you identify those parts. Put them in an order that matters to you. And if you're new at doing this, and your concern is, I need to take a little slower step at this, pick out the 6 most important things you think should be in a ritual. It should be there every time without fail and in a certain order. The order that makes sense for you. Make that be your template. It gets really easier to write rituals because when you have a ritual template, half of all of my rituals are identical. I invoke the god and goddess similarly. I invite the guardians. I cast the circle. I bring the circle to its conclusion. Every step of the way there are things I do the same every single time. I have that on a computer. I was quick to embrace the computer as a way to be very creative in the writing of my rituals. Because then I would fill in the blanks in between all the things I will do the same and in the same order each time. I'd fill in around that the things I was called to at any particular ritual to add in. I never take away from that ritual template. I add to it to flesh out. Consider it the bones of the ritual. If you're frustrated with writing, take a moment to think that the writing of the ritual is a ritual itself. As I mentioned, what comes out when you're thinking about what you want to do in a ritual, whether it's a single word on a card, or whether you actually write something out in detail or take it from another source, what's coming out is what feels powerful within you, what you're reaching down and into, what you resonate with. And in the process of writing a ritual, inspiration comes to you also from the outside. All of a sudden you'll have a thought or an idea. You don't know where it came from. Your guides work with you in the creation of rituals that honor them. The writing of the ritual itself is a sacred act. I have some practical suggestions for you. Whether you use your computer or write on cards or write on paper, there's something very helpful in the way you do that. Get yourself some heavier weight paper. If you print onto paper or write onto paper, make sure that the cards that you use have a good stock to them, a good 3x5. Don't just cut up pieces of regular printer paper into 3x5. Give yourself some heft and weight to what you print or write on. Even the notes that I make for myself when I come in to do my videos for you, they're on cardstock paper. It's not floppy. It doesn't fall over when I hold it. The rustling and flopping and shuffling of papers in a ritual, it will take you away from the moment in your ritual. Give yourself some substance to work with when it actually comes to holding whatever it is you're using as your source document. Stage directions. I have a big one for when I'm writing my rituals. I overwrite them to an extent, but it's helpful to me. It will say ring bell here in parentheses, or light candle here, or drum here, chant here. I am a big one for stage directions when writing my personal rituals. Don't hesitate to tell yourself what to do. Put in parentheses so it's not something you're going to read out loud going, oh crap, I just read that. I wasn't supposed to read that. Give yourself some kind of symbol, like in parentheses or something. Make it all caps, something that will say, oh, this is where I'm going to ring a bell. Put ring bell or light a candle or anything else that's a physical action you're going to do. Because when you've designed your ritual, you've put actions in at certain places for certain reasons. And sometimes You need a reminder when you get in the flow of it. All of my rituals have a page that's separate from it, which is a housekeeping page. After I write my ritual, I go back over the ritual and I write what I refer to as my "and there shall be" page. It lists what I need to do to get ready for the ritual. What I need to put out, what I need to prepare for. You don't want to get into your ritual and find out you left the cakes in the kitchen. You really don't. You don't want to forget there was a certain incense you wanted to use and you go to reach for it and oh yeah, I didn't prepare for this. Housekeeping. Go back over the ritual you've written and look at everything you need to do to get ready for it. I just had another few things to suggest to you. Don't use words or phrases that you would not comfortably speak. We American Wiccans have gotten ourselves in some interesting tongue twisters by trying to do our rituals in the King's English. Now, if you're comfortable with that, if that feels special to you and natural to you, and it has its place in your ritual, I'm saying go for it. More often than not, I have been, especially when I've been in public rituals, and have watched Americans stumbling over their these and thous and wilts and doeths and all the things that are not part of our language. Think about writing for yourself. If you are watching my channel, you are more than likely solitary and you're looking for advice in that practice. I think especially if you're watching this series on the flow of the Rite, you possibly are, or just a curious fellow practitioner who wants to know what this practitioner does. Don't write yourself into a corner with words that you wouldn't feel comfortable using. If you borrow from others beautiful pieces that have inspired you, don't hesitate to change the wording so you are comfortable with it. Speaking of changing your page, it is important that when you leave your ritual, you journal your feelings out of that ritual, what it felt like to you, what came out of circle that lived with you. However, you don't leave your ritual and sit down to go, oof, I need to fix this, I need to rewrite this. You don't rewrite it as you exit it. You do revisit it in time, but you need a few weeks perspective. Really believe this. You need a few weeks perspective to know if things went differently than you thought they would at the moment you left circle. You weren't so sure, it felt awkward, or you weren't so sure you accomplished what you want. You don't yet know if that is true. I do think there's power in revisiting your rituals, but not right after they've been done. I think it's very important that we consider the whole length of the creation of a ritual, writing a ritual, and getting to where we review it. That the looking back on the ritual should be after you have had the opportunity to experience the effect of the ritual. What you took away from it, how your life was altered when you returned from it. Give yourself time. Sometimes things happen in a ritual for a reason. If you are a control freak like me, you can say, I didn't like the way that worked. I need to sit down right away, rework that, rejig that, make it better for the next time. I think you're denying the opportunity to find out that it actually unfolded as it needed to. In hindsight, further down the road, I think you have a good chance to go, how was I different this side of that rite? Sometimes you want to go back and make some changes. I advise against having that happen when you haven't had a chance to live the ritual in your return. So there's just some bits and pieces about writing, and I wanted to put it now because I really suggest that if you are trying to decide what a ritual, the progression of a ritual, the flow of a ritual might be for you, I'm going to proceed with this series telling you every step of what I do and why. I'm a pretty good person for that because I think I do about all. In fact, at the end of the flow, I'd really like to hear from those of you who do something in addition to what I do. I like a complex ritual. There are things I have added to my ritual over time. There's nothing I've taken out, but there are some things that I either picked up from someone else experienced in going to someone else's ritual, or in the flow of rituals I was either in alone or leading, I thought, there is something else here I would really like to incorporate in my personal ritual. So I think I have an extensive list of the things that I do. I think as you hear them all from me, you're going to go, holy Hannah, she must be in ritual for 3 hours. No, most of my rituals, unless they're intended to be lengthy for reasons of meditation or peace or quiet or something that I need, most of my rituals are done within an hour. Some even less than that. But I do a lot of things in my ritual. As you're watching this series, make note of the ones that matter to you, that you might make use of. Maybe not right away. If you're new to this, you might want to try a ritual that has like part of them, and then one by one add in pieces to see, how did that feel to me? But be aware of the fact that I am not saying that what I'm about to present to you as the flow of the rite, which actually finally begins in the next video, is the way one must do a ritual. I am sharing with you how I do my personal rituals. It's a matter of taking or leaving any of the suggestions that I make, deciding if they mean anything to you, deciding if they're important enough to take sacred time to do or not for you. You may be like me. You may have a process that includes every single thing that I do. You may have a ritual that only chooses 4 or 5 things out of the entire list that matter enough to you to do them each time. But putting together the one from column A and one from column B to write a ritual, that's why I wanted to insert this video on ritual writing at this point. I wish you mirth and reverence. Mary Part.